Hi, good morning, Tanukis. I hope you're all well. It's horrible weather, so I hope you're staying inside and having a nice, cozy day. Maybe take a break from work at some point, do some TV or something nice. We're going to continue on with the book. We're on to our last few chapters now. We're on to chapter 10, and they're about to go into the old empty house. Before we do that, I'll tell you at the end about our next book we're going to do. It's been recommended by one of you, so you might know it. Right, chapter 10, In the Old Empty House. The door wasn't locked. It opened quietly. The sounds became loud at once. Someone was in there snoring. The same thought came to both boys at once. It must be the caretaker. Quietly, Peter looked in. Moonlight filled the room. On a low, untidy bed came the old caretaker, not even undressed. He looked dirty and shabby, and he was snoring as he slept. Peter turned to go, and his torch suddenly knocked against the door and fell with a crash to the floor. He stood petrified, but the old man didn't stir. Then Peter remembered how deaf he was. Thank goodness, he hadn't even heard the noise. He shut the door quietly, and the two boys stood out in the hall. Peter tried his torch to see if he had broken it. No, it was all right. Good. Now we'll go upstairs, he whispered. You're not afraid, are you, Jack? Not very, said Jack. Just a bit. Come on. They went up the stairs that creaked and cracked in a very tiresome manner. Lovely alliteration there, creaked and cracked. Up to the first floor with 5 or 6 rooms to peep into, all as empty as one another. Then up to the top floor. We'll have to be quite careful now, said Jack. He spoke in such a whisper that Peter could hardly hear him. These are the only rooms we haven't been into. The prisoner must be here somewhere. All the doors were ajar. Ajar means them just open as a door. But then, how would there be a prisoner unless he was tied up? The two boys looked into each room, half scared in case they saw something horrid. But there was absolutely nothing there at all. The rooms were either dark and empty or full of moonlight and nothing else. It's queer, isn't it? Whispered Jack. Honestly, I don't understand it. Surely those noises did come from the house somewhere. Yet there's nothing and no one here except the old caretaker. They stood there, wondered what to do next, and once more that faraway muffled squealing came on the night air, a kind of whining noise, followed by a series of curious thuds and crashes. There is a prisoner here somewhere, and he's knocking for help, and squealing too, said Peter, forgetting to whisper. Somewhere downstairs, but we've looked everywhere. Jack was making for the stairs. Come on, we must have missed a cupboard or something, he called. That was very Irish. Jack's Irish, apparently. Down they went, not caring now about the noise they made. They came to the kitchen. The noise had stopped again. Then the thudding began once more. Jack clutched Peter. I know where it's coming from. Under our feet. There's a cellar there. That's where the prisoner is. Look for the cellar door then, said Peter. They found it at last, in a dark corner of the passage between the kitchen and the scullery. Do you remember what the scullery was? We talked about it last week. Look it up if you're not sure. They turned the handle, and what a surprise, the door opened. It's not locked, whispered Jack. Why doesn't the prisoner escape then? Stone steps led downwards into the darkness. Peter flashed his torch down there. He called in a rather shaky voice. Who's there? Who is it down there? There was no answer at all. The boys listened with straining ears. They could distinctly hear the sound of very heavy breathing, loud and harsh. We can hear you breathing, called Jack. Do tell us who you are. We've come to rescue you. Still no reply. This was dreadful. Both boys were really scared. They didn't dare to go down the steps. Their legs simply refused to move downwards. Yet it seemed very cowardly to go back into the passage again. And then another sound came to them. The sound of low voices somewhere. Then came the sound of a key being turned in a lock and a door being opened. Jack clutched Peter in a panic. It's those men I heard last night. They're back again. Quick, we must hide before they find us here. The two boys, strange little figures in white, stood for a moment, not knowing where to go. Then Peter stripped off his white sheet and cap. Take yours off too, he whispered to Jack. We shan't be so easily seen in our dark overcoats if we slip into the shadows somewhere. They threw their things into a corner and then slipped into the hole. They crouched there in a corner, hoping that the men would go straight down into the cellar. But they didn't. Better see if that old caretaker is asleep, said a voice, and the two men came into the hall to open the caretaker's door. Then one of them caught sight of Peter's whitewashed face, which gleamed queerly out of the middle of the dark shadows. Peter had forgotten his face was white. Good gracious, look there, in the corner! Whatever is it? Cried one of the men. Look over there, Mac! Again, it's not me, I think. The men looked towards the corner where the two boys were crouching. Faces, white faces, said the other man. I don't like it. Here, switch on your torch. It's just a trick of the moonlight or something. A powerful torch was switched on, and the two boys were discovered at once. With a few strides, the man called Mac went over to them. He picked up both the boys at once, gave them a rough shake, and set them on their feet. Now then, what's the meaning of this? Hiding here with your faces all painted up like that. What are you doing? Let go of my arm! You're hurting, said Jack angrily. The thing is, what are you up to? What do you mean, said the man roughly. The thudding noise began again, and the two boys looked at the men. That's what I mean, said Jack. Who's down there? Who have you got keeping prisoner? Jack got a clout on the head that made him see stars. Then he and Peter were dragged into a nearby cupboard and locked in. The men seemed furiously angry for some reason or another. Peter put his ear to the crack and tried to hear what they were saying. What are we going to do now? If those kids get anyone here, we're done. Right, keep the kids here too then. Put them down with Kerry Blue. We'll fetch him tomorrow night and clear off, and nobody will know anything. The job will be done by then. What about the kids? We'll leave them locked up here, and send a car to the old caretaker to tell him to look down in his cellar the day after tomorrow. A light just fell out the ceiling. He'll get a shock when he finds the kids prisoners there. Serve them right, little pest. Peter listened. Who was Kerry Blue? What a peculiar name. He trembled when he heard the men coming to the door. But they didn't unlock it. One of them called through the crack. You can stay there for a while. Teach you to come poking your nose into what's no business of yours. They then began various curious noises. Something seemed to be brought into the scullery. The boys heard the crackling of wood as if a fire was being lit. Then a nasty smell came drifting through the cracks of the door. Ooh, they're boiling something. Whatever is it? Said Peter. Horrible smell. They couldn't tell what it was. They heard a lot of squealing again, then some snorting and a thundering noise like muffled hooves thudding on stone. It was all very, very extraordinary. The cupboard, made to take a few coats, was small and cold and airless. The two boys were very uncomfortable. They were glad when one of the men unlocked the door and told them to come out. Now you, let us go, began Peter, and got a rough blow on his shoulder at once. No cheek from you, said one of the men, and hustled the boys to the cellar door. He thrust both of them through it, and they half fell down to the top of the stairs. The door shut behind them. They could hear it being locked. Blow, blow, blow. Now they were prisoners too. A noise came from below them. Oh dear, was Kerry Blue down there, whoever he was? Switch your torch on, said Jack. For goodness sake, let's have a look at the prisoner and see what he's like. And then chapter 11 is the prisoner. I'm going to find it a bit more of him. Maybe you already have a feeling about what the prisoner is going to be like. The book we're going to do, I'll tell you the author, and then I'm going to show you the book tomorrow. The next book, it's by Malcolm Rapogo. We did The Wreck of Zanzibar before, if you remember, I think before Christmas. And I think you guys really enjoyed it, so we're going to do one more. So I'll tell you the book tomorrow and I'll show you the cover. Right. For now, have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.